Interstate 275. Yeah, Tampa, St. Pete. Alright, today we are talking Interstate 275, an urban bypass. 275 goes right into the heart of Tampa and St. Petersburg, while I-75 itself kind of acts more as the bypass road. Let's take a look at the route. So, you can kind of mix them up either way. It kind of make more sense for 75 to go into town, but at the same time, it makes more sense for 75 to have the straighter route. So, pick whichever. They picked 275 to go into town. We're going to start by talking southbound 275. 275 begins here at this junction with I-75 north of the Tampa area. So we see 75 had been signed Tampa. From this point is now signed south Naples. And 275 signed for Tampa and St. Petersburg and the airport from the jump, so that's good. We get our first mileage sign, Tampa 15 there, meaning downtown Tampa there, and St. Petersburg 34. I never knew how to pronounce this. I know this road really well, actually. I've spent a lot of time down here, even lived down here for a little bit. I always just went with the SNL Superfans pronunciation, Bears Avenue. You're watching Control City Freak. This is the YouTube channel where we talk about highways and the places that they're signed to go to. If you dig this kind of content, why not give us a like? And if you really like it, why not subscribe? Yeah, subscribe. First major road we meet is US 41, but we don't have an intersection with it. We just cross it, and we are going to be parallel with US 41, heading south into Tampa. And our first exit is about 7 or 8 miles into 275, this Bears Avenue. Bears. Right here, we are in Lake Magdalene, which is sort of a census-designated place. It is not really Tampa, but it's not really not Tampa. If you drop a pin in here, it says Tampa, but it's outside the city limits. Either way, they split the difference. Signed 275 South St. Petersburg instead of Tampa. Right here, we cross the Hillsborough River. I went canoeing on this one time. That was pretty sweet. And now we're going to be getting into downtownish Tampa stuff. So we're getting South 275, Tampa International, and St. Petersburg now instead of Tampa. And we are getting I-4 East Orlando and a couple of miles downtown and a couple of miles US 92 to US 41 Hillsborough Avenue exit here. I always loved this street. Seemed like the most hilarious street name, Flora-Braska Avenue, because yes, it does connect Florida Avenue with Nebraska Avenue. Here's our exit for I-4, and this was the end of I-75 when this was originally built, and I-4 used to extend south from here. So 4 East Orlando, and we are getting 275 for Tampa International and St. Petersburg. Here's exit 45A for downtown east and west. Southbound, we only get 45A, so you get both downtown exits coming off of here. This was requested by saturnotaku. He requested this because this is the route to the Lightning Arena, and he's been a Lightning fan since 2004, so this is the way he will take to the Lightning Arena, although he says the Selman is generally faster, and we're doing 275 today. I've been to that arena as well. I actually saw an arena football game, and that was pretty fun. Thank you for that request. saturnotaku requested that on the Patreon, and you can make requests on the Patreon as well if you have a paid membership, and I appreciate those of you who do. We've got lots of cool stuff coming up. You can also make an exit request the old-fashioned way by doing a $5 super thanks on any video to request something for an upcoming video, point of interest wise, and I appreciate those of you who do. So we continue south and we see the ramp lanes for the downtown exit are still right there next to us. They follow us for quite a ways. They leave pretty early before downtown. And we round this curve, we finally get a good view of the downtown Tampa skyline. We're meeting US 92, Dale Mabry Highway. If you were going to watch the Bucs, this is the exit for the new sombrero. I did not see any signs telling you to get off here for that. I imagine they exist, but I feel like they should probably be on the overhead signs. When I was a kid with my mom, she always got annoyed with this, Lois Avenue. How could they name it Lois Avenue when Lois Lane was just right there? Come on. Here's the exit for the airport, and this is a pretty substantial exit. It is also for West Florida 60 that heads over to Clearwater, and for the Veterans Expressway, which will head up the Gulf Coast northwise. Looks like this is not under construction right now, which is amazing. I feel like this interchange has been under construction every time I've been there since the first time I flew in 1988. We're crossing the Howard Franklin Bridge. My grandparents used to say, oh, the Howard Franklin Bridge, it has lots of traffic, it's scary. What do you think people call it? They call it the Frankenstein Bridge. And Then later, when I lived in Florida, I learned that nobody ever called it the Frankenstein Bridge, just them. And also, yay, more lanes. Yeah, that'll solve everything. I know that this is a heavily trafficked road, but come on. Would it kill them to just put in a train here instead of adding yet more lanes in this situation? A train would be perfect. You could have one line going through the whole St. Pete, Tampa area. It's perfect. Everything's all in a line. You could have a train running from St. Pete Beach to the Trop if they build a new stadium over there, to downtown St. Pete, to the Tampa airport, to the New Sombrero, to downtown Tampa, to Ybor City, and then up to Busch Gardens. If you're a tourist, you wouldn't even need to rent a car. It'd be fantastic. Why can't they do this? We get to the Pinellas County side and we get a North Beach exit listed right here. So we've got Indian Rocks Beach, Indian Shores, and Reddington beaches all coming up. We get a South Beach exits laundry list sign coming up right after that, but we'll look at that on northbound. We're adding express lanes now. I haven't seen this yet. This wasn't there the last time I was there, but they are adding HOT lanes over here, which, I don't know, every study I've ever read says that just adding more general purpose express lanes alleviates traffic more than adding the Lexus lanes, so I'm not a big fan of this development. 687 South to US 92, 4th Street North, and that'll also get you to the Gandy area, so 4th Street North is going to go straight south from there, and that's a major road in central St. Petersburg. Following that, this is almost sort of like a freeway kind of thing. I hate driving through this part here. Olmerton Road seems like it's 20 lanes wide. It's a surface street. It's just stoplights hanging from wires. It's super ugly. Never a part of town I really enjoy driving through. And next, we've got Roosevelt Boulevard, the Roosevelt Gateway, and this was requested by Edwin Paschke because he uses this way to get home. So thanks so much for that request. This will also take you to St. Petersburg Clearwater Airport, which as many times as I've been in the region, I've never once been to that airport. Here's a look at our express lane that is being built here. So express exit for the Gateway Expressway and the express lane for 275 South. Right here we get the 38th Avenue North exit, and this was requested by me because this is the exit you get off for the most important place in this entire region. Cut over to 4th Street North and you get to El Cap, the most awesome burger dive joint in St. Pete. I've been there every time I've ever been in town. It is fantastic. I 100% recommend you go if you're ever in the area. Been there 1,000 years, same menu. It is wonderful. Next, we've got an exit for 5th Avenue North. That is if you want to go toward the beach area. You're probably better off getting there if you're wanting to go to one of the more northern beaches, Treasure Island, something like that. We are meeting 375 and 175 shortly, two of the shortest interstates in the country. 275 South is now signed for Bradenton, and we have 375 signed for the Sundial and the Pier, and that's obviously some green out. I didn't recognize that because I haven't driven this road or paid that much attention in a little while, so I had to go back. When I lived in this area was in 2001. In 2012, the exit was for the Baywalk, and I looked it up, and the Baywalk is exactly the same thing as the Sundial. It's a privately held outdoor mall, so it's kind of a weird thing to be on a control point on an interstate. We passed right by Tropicana Field, so I've got my Rays gear today. I worked in Tropicana Field when I was living there, so I was saddened to hear about the state of it right now. And I do hope it gets sorted out, and I hope the Rays are able to play baseball in the city of St. Petersburg. We get a little mileage sign here, St. Pete Beach 4 and Bradenton 17. Next we meet 175. 175 is signed for Tropicana Field, 275 South Bradenton. It actually doesn't really matter if you get off at 175 or 375 if you're going to the Trop. You can get there pretty equally either way. Here's an exit for 22nd Avenue South, and this was one way to get to my dad's previous house. I didn't show 22nd Avenue North, but maybe I will northbound. Looks a lot like this. Here we are getting the exit for the Pinellas Bayway, which is a lovely road to drive down. I enjoy driving down that one quite a bit, and it goes over to St. Pete Beach. It ends right at the Don Cesar Hotel, and St. Pete Beach is a fantastic beach, well worth checking out if you're in the area. 275 signed now for Sunshine Skyway and Bradenton. On the ground here, this is on 34th Street. We can see 275 straight ahead, Skyway and Palmetto. So they throw Palmetto in, which is a little different than anywhere else. Fort DeSoto Park, St. Pete Beach, turn right, that takes you over to the Bayway. This interchange with the Bayway is a little bit confusing. This is the northbound lanes crossing over the southbound lanes right here. And here is where we cross back over the northbound lanes. We're under them and then we're over them. We're getting Pinellas Point Drive and Skyway Lane. This is the last exit before before we get to the bridge. And this is probably the only exit in Pinellas County that I've never once gotten off at. Toll Plaza 2 miles ahead. See, our toll across the bridge is going to be $1.75, which is a relative bargain because it's a wonderful bridge. And here's what it looks like on the toll booth heading into the bridge. They still do have toll booths there. After the toll, we get an exit for North Fishing Pier and the rest area. And if we look out, we can see the fishing pier, and why is there a random fishing pier next to this bridge? Well, as you may or may not know, in 1980, the Summit Venture smashed into the original Sunshine Skyway and knocked a good portion of it down. So when they built the new Sunshine Skyway, they left the run-ups to the old bridge and converted them into fishing piers. Good use of what was a terrible situation. Here we are on top of the Sunshine Skyway. As I say, wonderful bridge to drive across and boat under. I've done both. And from the top of the bridge, we get a good view of the South Fishing Pier. So you can see how it just juts out because it used to be the approach to the old bridge. Right here, they've set up some guardrails, but this is where everybody used to U-turn. Every time I used to go over this bridge when I was younger with my dad or my grandparents or whatever, we would always U-turn back so as to not have to pay the toll twice. But they have done something about that. But it is possible to U-turn without having to pay the toll twice at that rest area and the south side of the bridge now, so problem solved. We're down to exit 5. We are getting the Great US 19, which we were on from 34th Street and the Bayway until now. 19 is signed south for Palmetto and Bradenton. We are signed south 275 with no Control City, which actually kind of makes sense because if you want to go to Bradenton, you want to get off here. We do meet US 41 on our way out at exit 2. It is also signed for Palmetto and Bradenton. Coming to the end, and we are meeting I-75, which is signed north for Tampa, which actually kind of makes sense. I don't imagine many people would ever go down this road from Tampa other than people getting on at US 41. I don't think anybody's ever going to cross the Skyway and then take this north to Tampa. It does kind of work, and then south for Naples. Let's turn around and head northbound on 275. Here's what it looks like on the southbound approach. We get 75 south Naples and 275 north St. Petersburg. And on the northbound approach, we get 275 north St. Petersburg and 75 north Tampa. Because if you were going into Tampa, you're actually better off taking I-75 up and then taking either the Selman or I-4 into town than going through St. Petersburg and both bridges on 275. Toll Plaza, 4 miles, under 5 minutes, I should say so. And we are getting our last exit before the toll, our US 41 exit. And here it is, US 41 for Palmetto and Bradenton. We do not have an opportunity to exit at US 19 South. That is a Y junction. Get a single sign, St. Petersburg 15. That works in this situation. And here is US 19 joining us to head over the Sunshine Skyway. From the South Skyway rest area, you can go get a pretty good view of the bridge. I actually did that the last time I was in town. This is not my picture, but I looked at my pictures and the street view picture is actually better. And then heading up north on 275, we get a good view of the bridge before we round the curve. Here's a look at the hill up the bridge and the bridge itself head on. And here's a nice artsy view of the top of the bridge that I used for the thumbnail. From the top of the bridge, we can see the Tampa skyline across the bay over there. And as promised, our laundry list of South Beach exits. That's North Beach just beyond here with the same laundry list. St. Pete Beach, Treasure Island, and Madera Beach. As a St. Pete-centered person, Madera Beach seems north to me. Treasure Island is far north as you need to go. US 19 North is 34th Street. The Pinellas Bayway is its own thing that heads west over to St. Pete Beach. 275 North Tampa, even though we have not yet reached downtown St. Pete. Heading north, just like the 5th Street exit worked for heading west, in this way, this 31st Street South exit works for heading west as well, because we have a big curve to head toward downtown. And here we are going to meet 175 East Tropicana Field, and why not? Let's follow 175. So we loop over to 175, we have a big view of Tropicana Field, and another view of Tropicana Field. We can't quite see the roof, but right now I guess there's no roof to see, unfortunately. 175 is a trench freeway, so it's below grade, and we've got all the cross streets above us, and we end at 175 in 2,000 feet. We get a view of the downtown St. Pete skyline as we head toward the end of 175, and we get this St. Petersburg marker at the end of 175, and 4th Street is our actual terminus. 4th Street kind of makes up the edge of downtown St. Petersburg. Let's turn around and go the other way. We got some new condos there, and we got 175 entrance ramp right next to that same marker we saw before. And 175 has no exits heading toward 275. Our only exit is 275, Bradenton and Tampa. Rejoining 275, we pass over Central, and Central is the main drag of St. Petersburg, kind of from end to end. So here's a look at Central heading downtown toward the pier. Although the pier is not actually on Central, it's on 2nd. Get a laundry list of exits, 375, 22nd, and 38th. Northbound, we only get 375, the pier. They don't mention the sundial, so we'll exit on 375 as well. And lo and behold, we get a Tropicana Field next right. They could have marked Tropicana Field for both of these. Unlike 375's brother, a trench freeway, 375 is a raised freeway, so all of the exits are below us. And this is 2 US 92 4th Street North, the same 4th Street that 175 ended at. US 92 ends before it gets to 175. 2 signs telling us end 375 as we head into downtown St. Petersburg, and this is almost certainly the interstate that I have clinched the most times because it's so short you can clinch it in probably less than a minute, and I've done it over and over and over. Heading the other way, this is the most distant ramp on to 375, and the reason I clinched it so many times is because about 2 blocks north of this is where I lived when I lived in Florida for a few months. As soon as we get onto 375, we also have no exits leaving it until 275, just like on 175. All right, back on 275, just as promised, here is the exit for 22nd Avenue North. We're meeting Gandhi Boulevard, and this was requested by the Next 19. He hates that there's no mention of US 92 on this sign. Also, that there is no mention of the Selman, because the Gandhi Bridge ends up at the Selman if you cross over here, and that it's also a faster route in downtown Tampa than taking 275, and finally that there's no overhead sign, which I agree, there absolutely should be. So lots of complaints to have about this sign, but thank you for that request. That is well noted on all of those. Here's where we once again meet Roosevelt Boulevard and the Gateway Expressway. This is the original Howard Franklin Bridge, and this used to be two-way traffic, 2 lanes in each direction, and in the 80s they built the Southbound Bridge. The Southbound Bridge is higher than the Northbound Bridge, which always used to drive my grandpa crazy because he's like, more cement. It's not like bigger boats can go under this because the northbound bridge is still here. The new lanes that they're building is even higher than this. Although for flooding, I suppose that would work. Here's a view of downtown Tampa from the Howard Franklin Bridge. And this is pretty wild. This is our airport exit again. So we are getting 60 east for Kennedy Boulevard, 60 west for Clearwater, the North Veterans Expressway, and the airport. This used to be like 4 different exits, and we're getting all of them in one exit here. Kennedy was definitely its own. West Shore Boulevard was its own exit as well. So there is a lot of things thrown into this one interchange now. It does run more smoothly than before, so it makes sense. We're passing West Shore, and this is the Embassy Suites. I actually stayed there when I was a kid one time, and I think that Waffle House is the first Waffle House I ever ate at. Here's our exit for Dale Mabry Highway, once again, US 92, and just like before, we get no mention of the Bucs Stadium. We're now on 275 to I-4, Okala, Orlando. Here's exit 44, and this was requested by saturnotaku. This is downtown east and downtown west. It was 45A going southbound, northbound it is 44. He wanted to see this for the same reason, because it would be the route to go to a Lightning game. He goes every year when he visits the Gulf Coast since 2004 or so. Right on. And thank you for that request. Here's a view of downtown Tampa as we cross over the Hillsborough River. And here's a closer up view of exit 44. So we see downtown east Scott Street and downtown west Ashley Drive and Tampa Street. We're meeting I-4, so I-4 is signed East Orlando. We are signed 275 North Ocala. And you guys know I'm not in favor of that. It should be Gainesville. Would be the better draw. We are meeting US 92 once again. US 92 kind of follows I-4's route from this point. US 92 for Hillsborough Avenue. And we are getting Busch Gardens, exit 50. Awesome. Here is the exit for Busch Gardens, exit 50, Busch Boulevard. No big surprise there. That cuts right over to Busch Gardens, and 99.9% of the time, this is the farthest north I ever drive on 275. In fact, 100% of the time that I've ever driven north of this exit means I'm driving out of Florida entirely that day. This exit was requested by TheDerpHog because this is the exit for Temple Terrace, which is where his brother is going to school right now. So thank you so much for that request. At random interchanges, no big surprise, we're getting 275 North Ocala. And we get a mileage sign, a couple of Florida state highways, and Ocala 85. No mention of I-75 on there. In fact, the second one of those is after we already meet I-75, but I-75 is a Y interchange. You don't have a choice there, so I guess they figure why mention it. Here we meet Florida 56, exit 59. They do tell us to I-75 North Ocala. So from this point, we are bound to be on I-75. Our ramp over I-75 as we join the parent route. And right after getting to I-75, you are entering Pasco County. So here be dragons. And I do want to just show you from I-75, this is our exit onto Florida State Route 56. And this ramp goes and goes and goes. It goes around the 275 and 75 junction and it just keeps on going. So it is quite a long walled off ramp. All right, let's talk about Todd's the way it should be for Interstate 275. Southbound, it should be Tampa, St. Petersburg, Bradenton. I-75, I'd say it should be Fort Myers. And northbound, St. Petersburg, Tampa, Gainesville. So I'm down with how they sign 275 for the most part. My only beefs are with how they sign I-75 itself, not with 275. Thank you for watching this episode of Control City Freak. I really appreciate it. We will be back next week with US 6. What? The western part of US 6, the western half. So that's going to be awesome. Requests for that are closed by now, but it is going to be quite an episode. Until next time, my name is Todd, and keep on trucking.